Today I wanted to talk about building friendship and building connection and how that works, and some tips that you guys can take away to actually start to develop and really start to lock into actually having people in your life. I think that loneliness often comes from just not enough social connection, and it's something that I face that I feel like I've gotten a lot better at, and I feel like I've gotten a lot more comfortable and or more consistent with the idea of building these relationships up. Now, first and foremost, I think anytime you're really building a relationship and you're really developing a relationship, it's so incredibly challenging to lock in and to actually connect, right? I feel like, you might meet somebody, but they're really more of an acquaintance, and it doesn't really feel like you can share much with them, and it doesn't feel like they'll really be there for you. And it's a little bit hard in that sense to, I don't know, maybe feel fully opened up with people like that. Now, what I can suggest that you do is, it's about building relationships. It's about having conversation. But on top of that, in the same way that, again, I've been talking a lot about dating, as that's something that I'm kind of going through in my life, and trying to, find a wife, get married and have a kid or two, maybe, right? Somewhere down the line, there is different ways of building relationships. There's really, really positive ways. There's really productive ways. There's faster ways of building relationships, and there's slower ways, and there's less effective ways. And number one, I think the one thing that I stress all the time, right, and you've probably heard it if you've watched some of my videos in the past, is it's about asking questions. You have to get to know that other individual, and you have to know the things that you're looking for, right? You have to lay standards, and I'm going to make a video as well going over building our standard, right? Developing our standard, and what we are willing to put up with and what we're not willing to put up with, setting up boundaries, and really kind of creating a world in which we feel like we have a good set standard and understanding of what we are committed to, right? So anyway, that's in a different video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, because these are the types of videos we make every single day. Now, getting into it though, it's asking the questions about that person. What do you want to know? What's important to you? So for example, when I'm building a friendship and I'm trying to communicate, and I'm trying to talk and learn about somebody, I want to know what are their values, and I want to know what drives them. Are they religious, right? What does that say about somebody? And is somebody driven? What does that say? If somebody's busy and they work really, really hard and they're very dedicated to what they do, they're probably a dedicated person, right? Which is a good personality trait in a friend. I want to know if somebody's empathetic, right? And so you might ask questions like, how do you enjoy spending time with family? Do you care about friends? Do you have a lot of friends, right? So somebody that's social, maybe if that's important to you, and getting to know, and they have a lot of stories where they talk about their friends, or maybe they have 3 or 4 really good friends. That obviously tells you, well, if you've had relationships for a long period of time, you're somebody that is there and finds your person and is attached for a long period of time. If there's a friend or a girl, for example, that has been in 75 relationships, that tells me that you're quickly moving into something and you're quickly moving out of something. So asking certain questions that develop within our values and into our the way that we enjoy to see people is super important. So asking questions, developing that understanding, and going into it, and this is really cliche, and I feel like people say this all the time, but it's you have to be authentically you, right? Now, there is a level in which you might want to be reserved in certain areas, or can kind of adjust a little bit, right? So if you're very Republican, but you're like, your value is you don't really care, or say maybe you're really into guns, right? And you know somebody else isn't into guns necessarily, but you're not trying to build that relationship off guns. You don't have to lie and say that you like hate guns or anything like that, but those might be things where you go, I can enjoy this person even though this person doesn't like guns, right? And vice versa, ideally, if you can find somebody where it's like, that's okay. Just because I like guns and you hate guns doesn't mean that we can't have a relationship, right? And so maybe we just don't talk about guns with that person because that's not a value that we have together. And I think that's really important, that people go, yo, we should align in every single way. Like, and that's just not the case, because I feel like people don't always align in that way. So it's understanding maybe topics that we really have in common, right? And I think when you're in a relationship and when you're building a friendship or a romantic relationship, it's important to find the things that you guys can connect on and try and connect on those. And obviously, if you have very few things that you connect on, maybe that relationship isn't there. But I think people get a little bit lost on the idea that it's like, oh, if we don't connect in every single way, then we're not meant to be together. And I feel like that's not always the case either. Like, how many of you have a friendship right now, or a close relationship, or a boyfriend or a girlfriend where you guys don't have every trait in common, right? It's like everybody's gonna have some variance in there. Now, the more you can find similarities and enjoy conversations and the mental side of things, you guys can get along really well, then that's super important. So I think when you're building it, you should ask questions and figure out values, because I feel like values is where you guys really begin to connect and really begin to understand what each other is about. And that's the most important thing. Like, what is that person about? What does that person care? What are the intentions of this person? And then going from there, and understanding that not every relationship and not everything needs to necessarily be exactly eye to eye. I think there can be some variance there, and that's also okay to kind of feel and understand what's going on. So I hope a couple of these tips kind of helped. If you guys want me to go more in depth with this, let me know, and I'm more than happy to kind of go through that as well.